Hello and welcome. This is Gina from McGuire and I'm glad you're here. Now for today's video, I'm sharing two different topics. One is pop-up die cuts inside of your card. I have a few different ways of doing so. And the other is some fun ways to use layering stencils for soft backgrounds. So I have a bunch of examples, different sizes, different orientations, different techniques, in hopes that you'll be able to use one of them with supplies that you already have to create something new. Now I will be starting out with this particular card. We have layering stencils, the pop-up die cut, and more. Let's start with creating these floral images for the front and inside of the card. This is the Pinkfresh Happy Blooms Floral. Now you can buy these products separately, but together there is a stamp set, a coordinating die set, and coordinating layering stencils. One of the things I really like about Pinkfresh products is they coordinate things really well. So you've got these layering stencils that allow you to color in those outline images over there on the right, and it saves a lot of time. Or you can just color them with markers or watercolor or whatever you want. I love layering stencils because it saves me a ton of time and I'm not great at coloring. So I like to do the stenciling first. I have my Waffle Flower watercolor media mat that I like to work on when I'm inking. I have white cardstock and I have the first of the layering stencils for this set on the cardstock. I'm using Pinkfresh Studio ink and Gina blending brushes, but you can use whatever you have. Any inks, any cardstock, doesn't matter. So I'm doing different colors in different areas. That's one of the great ways you can get more from your stencils or layering stencils, is by doing multiple colors over one stencil. That way you have more colors in the end. Now I'm doing 2 sheets at the same time here. You can do as many as you want. So you'll see me ink up one and then switch to another piece of cardstock and then switch back. So here I'm back to the first one and I'm doing more over that same first stencil. I did blue the first time, and this time I'm doing some yellow and some orange. I just feel like it's easy to do multiple colors with one stencil, and in the end you get more colors from your layering. So here I am on the second sheet, and I'll do the same colors here. Another great reason to use the coordinating stencils to color in your image is you can do multiple colors in one opening, so you get really quick shading that would have taken me a lot of time to do with Copic markers or watercolor. So you can get blending and shading easily this way. Okay, I'm on to the second stencil here. This time I'm putting some orange down on some of the flowers. And whenever you're applying ink over a stencil, I do recommend going in 2 directions. Circle one way and then turn around and circle the other way. The reason I do that is to make sure I get into all the nooks and crannies. And it helps to give a more even application of the ink. However, if you want one side to be a little bit darker or edges to be a little bit darker, you can definitely change that up. So there I'm doing some yellow and some blue over the same stencil. So we're getting a lot of different colors of flowers. And again, you can use whatever inks you want here and whatever inking tool you want. Okay, so now let's move on to the third stencil. This is going to do some of the leaves. For this one, I'm doing it all the same, and it's with a really lighter green. And I try to get a little heavier towards the inside edges. You can see it doesn't take much effort at all. After I've done the first one, I can switch to the other one and do the same colors. Okay, so I'm going to move ahead here. This is the next stencil. This one I'm doing a darker green, and this gives a little shading to that and also to the center of the flowers. And look how beautiful this is so far. Okay, and then I went in just to the center of the flowers with an Altenew detail blending brush and added some brown ink too. That's on the same stencil and allows the centers to be colored. So I created 2 of these pieces, so there's 4 bouquets because each one has 2. So this took me about 10 minutes to do all of this inking, whereas it would have taken me a really long time to color those 4 bouquets with any coloring medium besides those stencils. Now I've put it into my MISTI stamping tool, and I've lined up the image, which stamps both of the floral images at once, and it'll line up great with this stencil because they were designed to go together. You could stamp first and then stencil, but I just find it easier to do the stenciling first, and you don't have to worry about any of your ink smearing or making it positioned just right with your stencils. I just find this easier. Now I'm using the coordinating dies to cut the 2 bouquets out at once. I like that I'm able to create 2 at a time with these products. It's a time saver in the end. So I have 4 bouquets of flowers. 2 of them will go on the front and 2 on the inside. For the two on the front, I'm stacking additional die cuts behind it for dimension. So I die cut just from inexpensive white cardstock or scraps, some of the same die cut shapes. So I have 2 white die cuts glued behind each of our floral colorful bouquets. I like that added dimension, but you can skip it if you want, and I'll set this aside for the front of our card, which we'll do in a bit. Now for the inside of the card, I wanted these 2 bouquets to be glued together so it's one large bouquet. This piece will pop up when you open up the card, which I think is a really fun and surprise, and it has a very clean and simple look to it. So I have these glued together so I can act like they're one piece. Now here I have 2 little pieces of scrap acetate, just clear transparency, that are about 1 inch by 1/4 inch, and I folded them in half. Here's a closer look at the 2 pieces we have. I'm going to call these the feet of our die cut. I also have a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch note card. I'm going to open that up. This floral bouquet will pop up when you open it. So let's do a little bit of planning. I want a score line right here. So that's where the fold line needs to be of our die cut. So kind of right through those 2 pool colored flowers. So I'm taking this to our score buddy and scoring right down those pool flowers. It really doesn't matter where you do it. Usually close to center is best. Once I've scored that, I can go ahead and fold there. And I'll just trim off this little excess piece that's in the back that no one will see. So there we have our large floral bouquet with a fold close to center. Okay, next we have those 2 little feet that we created from some clear acetate. You could use white cardstock there if you prefer. On both sides of those little feet, or that V shape, I'm putting strong double-sided adhesive. This will allow me to attach it to our cards and it'll stay put and make sure that when the recipient opens up the card, the die cut will pop up. So here are the 2 little feet with adhesive on the outside on both sides. So you can see it there. I have 2 of them exactly the same. Okay, now we need to add these to the left and the right of our floral bouquet. So I removed the release paper from one side of this foot, and I'm putting the crease of it right up against the edge of the die cut. So you can see part of the foot is sticking off there. The other side of the foot is stuck to the back of the die cut. Then I will do the same thing to the other side. I'll remove the release paper from one side of our little foot, put that up against the left back side of our die cut. The little score line of the acetate will line up right with the edge of our die cut. And there we have a foot sticking off of each side. On the sole of each of these little feet are more adhesive, so we can add this to the inside of our card. Super easy to do and works with pretty much any die cut shape, even one intricate like this. Now here I'm just taking some tape and putting it on the feet. This is temporary tape, so I can figure out what placement I want. So now I'm going to put this into my note card, making sure the score line of the floral bouquet is parallel to the score line of the note card. I'm going to try it here and close up the card and see how that works. That's okay, but it doesn't pop up a whole lot. So I'm going to try moving it over a bit. So watch, I'm just going to carefully remove this and just move it a little to the left. So right now the score line of my die cut is about 3/4 of an inch left of the score line of the note card. And you can play around with this and see what you like. That's a bit better for me. This way I find that the die cut pops up more. Now this is one where you kind of eyeball it because we didn't do the score line down the center of our bouquet. My later examples are much easier, so you can stay tuned for that if you want. Now I'm happy with this position, so I'm just kind of tracing the edge of this die cut so that when I remove that tape, I'll know where I want this to end up. So I remove that temporary tape, and now we can remove the release paper from the back of that little foot that we have sticking off the side. And I want it to line up with that pencil mark I've done in there. So I remove the release paper, I can just stick it in there right where that pencil mark is, and now our bouquet is kind of hanging there because that foot is adhered into the note card. We can erase our pencil lines and now remove the release paper from the other foot. Then while it's folded, we'll close the other side of the note card, just close it right onto it, and then it'll be adhered in place. Notice the score line of that die cut is parallel to the score line of the note card. You can see it's about 1/2 inch or so to the left of the score line of the card. Now we just fold that right onto the adhesive and check it out. When you open it, that floral bouquet pops up, which I think is just a fun surprise. Nothing too crazy, just simple and classy. I also wanted to add a little sentiment there on the inside, so I'm actually using an acrylic block, something I don't do much anymore, and I stamped a sentiment with black ink towards that top right corner. Okay, now let's go back to the front of the card and finish that off. For the note card background, I'm using the Pinkfresh Happy Blooms frame. Love this cling stamp. It also has these sentiments that come with it, although I won't be using those today. And of course, because this is Pinkfresh, there are layering stencils and coordinating dies with this, which is a huge help because you can use it to create shaker windows or window cards, anything you want, and you can quickly color them. However, I'm just stamping that frame stamp in a solid color in the background, something soft. I put a sticky mat into my Misty stamping tool and also the stamp. I'm putting a piece of white cardstock centered on the stamp. Then I will close my Misty upside down, flip it over, and this sticky mat will grab hold of that white cardstock to hold it right in place. Now I can stamp this with this super light gray ink. I wanted this to be very subtle. This white cardstock piece is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Now we also need a sentiment to go on the front of our card, and I'm really excited about this next stamp set. This will probably be on my favorites list for this year. This is the Pinkfresh Just a Hello stamp set. There's also a coordinating die and coordinating layering stencils. The layering stencils allow you to color in the image. The coordinating die cuts out the floral image, but also all of those sentiments at once, and that's why I really like the set. So I'm not using the floral stamp set or the coordinating dies. I'm just using the sentiments this time. But let me show you how it works. So you just take the one large sentiment image and you'll stamp that onto cardstock. I'm actually stamping it twice because I can, and I can save the leftovers for future cards. I will then use the coordinating die to cut them all out at once. So I end up with a bunch of die cut sentiments ready to go. I also really like the sentiments in it. There are some basics, but then also some unique ones, and you'll see me use those throughout this video. I decided to go with Hope All Is Well for this card. Next, we need to create the background for the front of our card. I really like these new stencils from Pinkfresh Studio. There are a few of these. There are 4 layering stencils that are all slimline size, which is great because you can use them for a large slimline card or for a smaller card, like I'm doing today. And you can use 1 or 2 or 3 of these stencils or all 4 layered together. I'm going to do some basic inking of this in soft colors to match the florals that we created before. I'm starting with the first stencil, and I've put in a piece of white cardstock into the corner of my watercolor media mat here, and then the stencil right in the corner too. That way I know if I put the stencil in the corner, it'll always line up each time. This time I'm putting a very light blue over the most open stencil. This will kind of be the background. Once I'm done with that, I can bring the next stencil in, put that right in the corner also. See, I'll tuck it right into the corner there and do a slightly darker amount of the same color. So I'm just putting the same color of ink, just a heavier amount, but not too much. I do want this to be a softer background. And again, you can use any inks you want here. So here you can see what we have so far, but I thought I'd continue and use them all so you could see them in action. Coming in with the third stencil, this does the little diamonds at the center of the bigger ones. And this one I'm doing with the pool color ink just to bring in another color. And it'll help us match those florals we did a little bit better. After that, I can go ahead and bring in the next one, which does little lines between the diamonds. And I'm doing that with the soft blue too. So I'm just choosing colors that match our florals, but in a softer tone. And there you can see that fun background. This would be beautiful with texture paste or glitter paste or embossing powder to bring in texture, but I wanted this to be simple. I trimmed it down, and it's a slimline piece. I'm going to cut that in half so I can use it for the backdrop on 2 cards. So I matted that with white cardstock and added it to that white stamped piece that we did with the cling floral. And now I'm gluing the little bouquets that we did with stacked die cuts into the top left and bottom right corners. I also have that Hope All Is Well sentiment in the middle. Once I've got those glued on there, I can trim the excess off because that's sticking off the side of our note card. And I did add a few pearled or little gems here and there, pool color, to fill in that diamond pattern, enhance it on the background. So now we can glue this on the front of our note card where we have that pop-up floral feature inside. All of this is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I found it easier to glue this piece onto the front of the card than trying to do all the different pieces on one. It's easier to glue it together. So here's a look at the completed card again. It's 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. You have that stenciled backdrop that's soft, and then our bold florals that we did very quickly with the stencils, stamp, and coordinating dies. I also really like that sentiment. I think it's really encouraging. And you can also see that subtle light gray stamping we did around the border with the floral stamp. And then when you open up the card, you have that floral bouquet that pops up, a fun surprise, and an additional sentiment. There's plenty of room there on the bottom to write your personal message. So this is one way to add a die cut, and that's a pretty intricate die cut. The rest of them will be really simple. I'd like to start with the hard first, and I will also show other ways you can do this pop-up feature. Okay, here is our next example. This is a Slimline card, has very simple design to it, and when you open it up, you get this fun pop-up die cut. This one's easy and great with basic shapes. Let's start with the stenciling that we did on the front of our card. This is another of the Slimline layering stencils from Pinkfresh. This is Hearts. I am crazy about this layering stencil set. Would be so cool with glitter gel or pearly gels, anything. But again, I'm doing just inking today. So I'm starting out on white cardstock. I have the largest heart stencil first that I'm doing a soft layer of light pink ink over. Remember, you could do just 1 or 2 of the stencils, but all 3 together is really beautiful. Now I'm coming in with the third stencil and doing the same ink color, but putting a heavier amount down. Another thing you can do with these stencils is slightly offset, and you can create overlapping hearts and create a really cool layered background. But again, I'm going for simple backgrounds today and focusing on the pop-up feature on the inside of the card. Now here we are with the third layering stencil, and I'm coming in with a brighter pink and putting a pretty heavy amount of this ink down so the center of the hearts really stands out. As someone who doesn't use pattern papers much, I like to create my own, just as we've done here, because I can do whatever colors I want for a particular card. I find making my own pattern papers very rewarding. Okay, now I have a note card here that is 3 3/4 inches by 8 1/4 inches, close to a Slimline card. And I've cut my background down to fit right at the center of that. But let's do the pop-up feature on the inside. I have 2 pink hearts here that I cut. One's a little bit bigger than the other, and I'm scoring them right down the center so I can fold those 2 pink hearts in half. You could use any heart die cuts. There's a lot of companies who have stacking hearts. This is a discontinued set, but again, you could use hearts, you could use stars, circles, whatever shapes you have. And I'm gluing these 2 together just for a little bit of interest. And again, both of those are scored right down the center. I also have a piece of white cardstock that is about 8 1/2 inches wide, and I'm going to score that in half. This will be part of the pop-up feature that connects everything together. Now to the right of the score line, I'm stamping Love You from one of the stamp sets that I showed you earlier. I just thought that would be a nice way to pull everything together. Now let's glue this all together. I'm going to glue this white strip across the pink hearts, lining up all the score lines. So I'm lining up the score line on the white strip with the score lines on the hearts. Next, I'm putting additional score lines on the white strip just to the right of the pink heart and just to the left of the pink heart. So watch, I'll squirt just to the right of the edge of the pink heart and then squirt to the left, just to the left of the pink heart. So it really doesn't matter how far out, just make sure you're past the edges of the heart. So now it looks like you have this heart with these arms that are sticking out ready to hug you. Now I'm putting adhesive along the back of the arms, only on the back of the arms. I'll glue this to the inside of the card, making sure the score lines down the center of the hearts lines up with the score line of our note card. And then I'll press this down. It's pressing down flat. Once that's dry, I can fold this all in and watch that heart folds out and it all closes up, and you just squeeze it closed, and there we have the pop-up feature. So instead of using feet on this one, I just had those arms that stuck out. Once it's dry, I trimmed off the arms and I finished the front of the card. Now for the front of the card, I added 2 pink hearts and also a sentiment that I had left over from that stamp and die cut set that I showed you earlier. I also added pearls into the pattern of the background. I love doing this. I think it makes backgrounds really special when there's a pattern like this. Now, this is a pretty simple card from the front, but when you open it up, you have that pop-up surprise, which I think makes it really fun. It's also simple, but sometimes that's all you need. I did stamp another little sentiment underneath "Love You." This stands on display beautifully, and there's plenty of room to write your personal message on the inside too. Now here's a tip. Whatever die cut you choose to pop up, make sure that the width of that die cut is not wider than your note card. If the width of that die cut is a little bit less than the width of your note card, it'll work out great. If the width of that die cut is bigger than your note card, it'll stick out when you fold it. Just trust me. Make sure your die cut is a little bit more narrow than the width of your card, and you're good to go. And it's an easy way to do a pop-up feature on the inside of your card. Highly recommend trying this one out first because it really is easy to do with a basic die cut shape. Okay, let's do another example. This is a little bit different than the others, but definitely worth sharing. This has a little floral bouquet and sentiment that pops up when you open the card. Now this one features this beautiful Pinkfresh stamp set that allows you to stamp, color, and die cut a bunch of florals at once, which is a big time saver. There are also some great sentiments in this too. So you have this stamp set, there's a coordinating die, the coordinating layering stencils to color, and there is a hot foil plate. So if you have a hot foil machine, you can do a foil outline of this. I've done that in many videos. If you want to see how to do that, I'll link to the top right here. But today I decided to do stamping instead of the foiling. But know that there is an option for that, and Pinkfresh often offers those. Once again, I like to start with the stencil coloring first, and then we'll do the stamping. I'm doing multiples once again. I'm doing one sheet that will have pink flowers, one that will have peach flowers, and one that will have yellow. So in the end, I'll have a bunch of flowers to cover the front of our card. So I first did the pink ink on one sheet. This is the peach. Then I'm switching to another sheet, wiping that stencil clean so I can move on to yellow for this third one. Now I'm not going to go through all the steps of stenciling these. It's very obvious. They in fact put stencil 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the top corner so it's easy to follow. And I just did the same on all three from here on out so that they all have green stems and also the flower centers are brown. Very quick and easy to do, so much faster than coloring. But if you're someone who does like to color, you can skip the stencils and just get the stamp set and color that however you please. And here I have my finished 3 panels. One has pink flowers, one has peach, and one has yellow. Now I can use the stamp, which stamps them all at once, line that up with the coloring we've done, and I'm going to gold heat emboss these. So you could stamp these in black, you could use those foil plates, remember, but what I'm going to do is use an anti-static powder tool, stamp with Versamark ink, add gold embossing powder, and heat set it. Once I've done that with all 3, I can use the coordinating die to cut the flowers out. And notice this one die cuts them all out at once, so it's a big time saver. So after die cutting out all 3 of those panels, look at all these flowers that we have. I'll use them on this card, and I will have leftovers for another card too. Nothing makes me happier than a pile of multiple die cuts. All right, let's do our background next so we can add our flowers on top. I'm using another Pinkfresh layering stencil Slimline set. This allows you to do stripes or use them together to do plaid. And I wanted to do a really soft but sparkly plaid for the background of this card. Nothing that was too bold. Over one of the striped stencils, I'm applying a super light amount of a peach ink. Very soft. Again, I want this to be super soft. Once I've done that entire stencil, I will move to the second stencil. This one has the vertical stripes. And over this, I decided to add glitter glitz. This is an iridescent glitter paste or glitter gel from Gina Designs. And I like it for just about any project. It just is a nice way to add a sparkle, and it doesn't change the color behind it. But it does have an iridescent glitter to it that picks up the colors around it when it shines. I just spread a thin layer over the stencil. When I'm done, I can put the excess back into the bottle, close the bottle, and then take my stencil and rinse it off so it doesn't dry on there. And there we have a really soft background, but it has texture and sparkle to it, which I think is a fun way to add something interesting but not too distracting. Now for the flowers I put on the front of my card, I did create additional die cuts of the flowers just from white cardstock. and glued 2 to the back of each of my colorful die cuts. This just gives added dimension that'll hold up through the mail. You could definitely skip this part, but it's something that I like to do to make these flowers stand out against that plaid background. So I'm just gluing these flowers down. I like to start in one corner and work my way across to the other corner. Just kind of evenly spacing them and making it look like the flowers are kind of tossed along the background. By the way, I did trim that background to be about 6 inches by 3 inches. This will go on a mini Slimline note card that is 6 1/4 inches by 3 1/4 inches. Once I have that glued to the front of our note card, I can flip it over and trim off any of the excess pieces sticking off. Now for sentiments for this card, I'm using an older Pinkfresh Studio set. This is Celebrating You. There is a stamp set and coordinating die set and a coordinating hot foil plate. So you can hot foil the sentiments and then cut them out, or stamp the sentiments and then cut them out. And this is one of those sets that does multiples at once, so you can have spares left over. I'll be using one on the front of the card and one on the inside of the card. I decided to use the stamping, so I have the large stamp, put it in my Misty stamping tool, and I'm stamping that with a black pigment ink. I will then add clear embossing powder and heat set it. So notice I'm doing all of these sentiments at once. And then I can use the coordinating die to cut them all out at once. And in the end, I have multiple sentiments here. I'll save the others for later, but using 2 of them on this card. So Proud of You will go on the front, and You Are So Loved will go on the inside. I have this old gold cording that I created into a bow, and I'm gluing the knot onto our background. Our sentiment will get glued on top of this, so it'll be sandwiched there. But I wanted this to dry while I work on everything else. Let's create the pop-up for the inside. This is a clear piece that pops up, so it looks like our sentiment and flowers are floating. For this, you need a piece of acetate. I like to use a piece of acetate that is 1 inch by 5 inches. That's what I have here. Now I'm going to score this in 3 places. The first is 1 inch from one edge. So I'll do 1 inch right here. Then I'll do the second score line at 2 inches. So right there, I'll score that. Then I rotate the piece and do 1 inch from that side. So there are 3 score lines in there. And I'll fold along each of these. Now you can use recycled acetate for this from some packaging, or if you want to buy a pack of acetate, I'll link to a great source below. So now I'm just folding along each of those score lines, and this is the piece that you'll end up with. It looks almost like a closed rectangle, but not quite closed. Okay, so now we need to add some adhesive onto the 2 flaps on the end. I like to use Lawn Fawn double-sided tape. You can use whatever strong double-sided tape you have. So you can see I have adhesive on the 2 end flaps. So there you can see the 2 end flaps there. So basically the 2 feet, on the sole of the feet there. Okay, so now let's add this to the inside of our card. Now on the end where we just had 1 score line, I'm removing the release paper. So now we have exposed adhesive there. I'm going to put this inside of our card so the end of the acetate piece is right lined up with the crease of our card. I will then close our note card onto it. So I'm going to close this, you'll see in a moment, and it grabs a hold of that adhesive. And now this is just sticking out here. So see how that's just kind of sticking out there? Perfect. Now we can remove the release paper from the sole of the other feet. Then I will fold the acetate on the middle score line. So fold it right there, that one that I'm pointing to there. And then I will close it onto that. So this will adhere to the back of the card also. So watch, when I open it up, you have this acetate piece that pops up. It's kind of like a little rectangle that pops up, but it's clear, so you can add anything to it and it'll look like it's floating. You'll see more of it in just a moment. But basically, you can add anything on top of that clear pop-up, and when you open up the card, that'll stick out. Just make sure that when you glue it on, it doesn't stick out when you close your card. So what I did is I created a You Are Loved sentiment, and I added some florals behind it. I'm putting some strong double-sided tape on the back of that, and then gluing it to the top of our clear pop-up, putting it close to the crease of the card there, and pressing it down onto that acetate. And also make sure it doesn't stick out when you close it. That gives us a great pop-up feature. To finish the front of the card, I added the Proud of You right on top of that gold bow knot so it'll stay in place. And I also added a few gold gemstones. So here's a look at the completed card. On the front we have lots of flowers, also that soft plaid in the background that offers a little sparkle. You can also see the gold gemstone I added, the sentiment, and the gold bow. And the overall size of this card is 6 1/4 by 3 1/4. Now when you open it up is the real fun. You have that simple floating sentiment with the flowers. That's thanks to that acetate pop-up feature. You can add any sentiment on there or any small die cut. It's a fun way to have a quick and easy surprise pop-up. Okay, now my last card is definitely the easiest of the different pop-up features and definitely a good one for you to try with any basic die cut shape. Now for this one, let's start with the front with the backgrounds. Again, I'm using some layering stencils. This is a star layering set. So you have the 3 stencils. You can use 1, 2, or all 3 together. And of course, I'm going for all 3. I'm going to go through this really quickly because it's the same process as we did before. I'm starting with light blue cardstock and putting a light amount of blue ink over the most open star stencil. Then over that, I'm putting the second stencil and using Tim Holtz Distress Oxide ink in Twisted Citron. I'm using Oxide ink here because I want to put the green over the blue. This is an ink that has a bit of opaque property to it, so it will allow that green to show, even though there's blue behind it. If I would have used a dye ink here, it would have blended with the blue. But this gives me a bright green against the blue background. Easy to do. So before moving on, since that is an ink that stays wet a little bit, I'm going to heat set it so it doesn't smear. Now I have the third stencil. This is the tiny stars. And over this, I'm putting white pigment ink. This will just create a soft spot at the center. If I wanted this to be bright white, I would add white embossing powder when I was done. But I just want this to be a soft white at the center. And look at that. Super fun, doesn't take long at all. And again, I'll heat set that to make sure it's all dry. I then trimmed that background down and added it to a white note card. This ended up being about 4 by 6.5 inches. I'll talk about that size again in a little bit. But now let's do the inside of the card before we finish the front. So for the stars on this, I'm using the Pinkfresh Studios Essential Shaker Die Star Set. This has faux stitching on the inside and outside of the cutting edge. Great for shaker cards, but I'm just using them as stars today. For sentiment, I'm using the Pinkfresh Best of Everything Floral stamp set. This is a great one. It has a large floral image, and there are coordinating stencils that allow you to quickly color that. But I'm just using that sentiment on the bottom, and I stamp that right into the center of this star. Now this is the star I want to have pop up, so I'm doing a score right down the center as we did with the hearts earlier. So I stamped first, scored second, and then folded it in half. I am again creating 2 little clear feet like we did on our first pop-up card today. So these are just cut from scrap pieces of acetate. They're about 1.5 inches long and about 1/4 inch wide, but it really doesn't matter what size you choose. You just want to fold each of them in half. And once again, I put double-sided tape on the outside of both sides of the V shape, or the feet, whatever you want to call them. So I start by removing the release paper from one side of one of the feet, and I glue it right to the edge left of the die cut on the back. And there you can see the little foot sticking out. And I'll do the same thing on the right edge of the die cut. So the fold of the acetate lines up really close to the edge of the die cut on both sides, and you have these little feet sticking out. Because the score line is down the center of the star, this is super easy. I can remove the release paper from the bottom of both of the feet. Then I will lay this into our open card, lining up the crease of the star with the crease of our note card, and I'll press that down. The star will pop forward as you open up the card, and you can see how nicely it opens and closes. I will finish off the inside of the card by adding a few scattered stars from the top right to the bottom left. For sentiment on the front of the card, I use the Pinkfresh Perfect Sentiment set. This is like the one I showed you earlier. It's a stamp set. There's a hot foil plate and a coordinating die. And you can use the coordinating die with the hot foil plate or the stamps. Once again, I did the stamps. The front of this card's very simple. I added 3 layered star die cuts along with the word celebrate from the set I just showed you. I also added some holographic star confetti in the background pattern, and look at how it glistens in the light. Super cool and such an inexpensive, easy thing to add. Okay, when you open it, check this out. That star pops up. I have the additional stars to decorate it, along with some more of that holographic confetti. Now the overall size of this is about 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches. It's a pretty random size, and I like to do different sizes. I don't feel like they all need to be the same. I just find an envelope that's a bit bigger, and I adjust it to fit the card. So I chose a 5x7 envelope. It's a little bit bigger than the card I made, and I'm just going to trim a little bit off the bottom of the envelope, just so the card fits in there a little snug. You could just put it in this larger envelope, but by cutting that little bit off the bottom and resealing the bottom, I have an envelope that really fits the card much better. This is an envelope hack I've done many times in videos over the years, and it really is helpful. So there you have it, many different ways to add a pop-up die cut inside of your card. I hope that you're able to choose one that works with some products you have so you can give it a try. If you like what I used here and want to see more, you can check out the YouTube description below. Also, at the end here on the top right, I have a link to my blog where there's much more information and photos, and you can bookmark the cards, and also 2 other related videos that could be helpful to you. Thanks so much once again for watching a long video. I appreciate you, and I'll see you again soon.